industries that helped the emergence of new sources of energy in the form of electricity, gas, and oil. And because of this new power sources, it helped industries to go for mass production. So when we talk of IR2, it basically reflects mass production in its scope, right? Also, the second industrial revolution gave us better communication methods uh, prevalent in those days, like telegraph, telephone, etc. Right? So we can say that second revolution provided two important aspects of the industry. The first one was assembly line, and the second you can say standardization. Right? These two things came in second revolution. So I would also like to quote regarding assembly line because it was the Ford company which first introduced this assembly line. At that time, it was producing a model which was Model T. Fine. Though this car was not so much expensive at that time, but still Ford wanted it to be more inexpensive so that everybody can own it, right? So to lower the prices of the cars, he found a way to build them more efficiently. He thought of that it should be built more efficiently. So what Henry Ford did was he installed the first moving assembly line for mass production for an entire automobile. So this innovation, right, reduced the time it took to build a car from more than 12 hours to simply 2 hours and 30 minutes. So in time period of 2 hours and 30 minutes, they were able to produce a car which earlier used to be produced in 12 hours duration. Right. And at the same time, all parts were made as per specific standards so that same parts were interchangeable during assembly. So the manufacturing of the part by any third party was also possible. So you can simply give them the specifications and accordingly it can be manufactured, right? Then let us move to the Industrial Revolution third, which happened in 1969. So if we see this uh, revolution of 1969, which again is almost a century after second industrial revolution, it brought forth the rise of electronics, telecommunications, and obviously the computers, right? So the new technologies that came with the third industrial revolution gave rise to an era of very high level of automation. So communication reached another level, which actually started happening in real time, making world a common platform for all and within its reach. So until this industrial 3, which we all know because we are part of it, we always use internet. Even now I'm using internet, fine, for disseminating this lecture. So what is industry 4, right? So industry 4 actually we can say started in 2011, and we can say that this is something that we are into it and we use it every single day. How? Because the first and foremost thing is the internet, which was the main thing in industry revolution 3, and again in 4 it is one of the core components, right? The base. But then there is beside internet a lot of other things. So industry 4 as a revolution is happening right now. We are experiencing it every day, and yet the magnitude of this transformation is still unknown. We are still in its search, and we can take an example for this. So think of it like if I start from my office to my home, because I start from my home for my home from my university in the evening, and it takes about 20 minutes for me to reach my home. So let us say when I start from my office and simply using my mobile, I instruct my oven to start and heat up my snacks. Fine, let us say, and the oven is able to do it on itself. It keeps it on and automatically selects the temperature based on whatever food type is kept in between, fine, in the oven. So then I again instruct, let us say, my AC to start cooling my room, and the temperature, humidity, etc. Is automatically set by the AC based on the prevailing conditions. So that when I reach my home, everything is in place. So what am I trying to do? I am trying to make my home smart, wherein the decisions are being taken by the systems, AC, oven, fine, and they are improving it. They are improving themselves with the data that is being collected. Getting it? So that is where we have this smart automation coming in between. There are numerous examples actually in which smart automation is already in place and we are part of it. So let us see some more examples so that we are in the line of Industry 4.0. So another common example of smart automation is the fitness band. Fitness band, you can see most of the people are now wearing it. So it is being commonly used nowadays. So what does it do? It collects your data on daily basis, analyzes it, and suggests or even warns you on the health issues that may arise sooner or later based on the data collected. Fine. So now let us take an example of manufacturing company. So let's consider another example of a company making a drill bit. So let us say, and you are the in charge working on it. So you instruct the machine to make a specified quantity of required sizes of drill bits. And then you went away for another work somewhere else. So the machine, after finishing the job, sends you the report with all the details that the production has been completed, all jobs has been checked, and everything has been found to be okay. So this kind of a thing is now has started happening. So when we talk of Industrial Revolution 4, then this information is the most important part as the analysis helps us with the useful insights within a given system. Right? So now that you have a basic understanding what we are talking about related to Industrial Revolutions 4, let us move further. Now you can see factory, right? So this is a simple model of a factory based on Industry 4.0. So can you see the factory? The factory is in the behind, right? You can see the factory here. So this is the factory, as you can see here. This is the factory, fine. And this other thing that you are seeing is somewhere else. This is basically a control room, fine. So factory is at a distant place and it is being smartly controlled and monitored by using a combination of hardwares and softwares. So if you see further in this, there is highly flexible mass production, then big data from sensors are coming, then there is advanced analytics of those, then there is a cognition factor to recognize something, then self-optimization, self-configuration, self-monitor and control, then all these things relate to the continuous improvement and the feedback that you get is on real time. Then we have self-diagnosis part, then predictive maintenance. So all these things basically are part of Industry 4.0. So if you see, most of the word contains self word, means a machine by itself is sufficient enough or smart enough to find out what is the problem and where is it, and how to solve a given problem, how to optimize, fine, a given thing. So when you say industry 4, what is doing is it helps to collect, analyze, and act on granular production data. So whatever a production center is doing, the data is being collected, fine, and this production data is being transformed, right, and has an impact on operations, especially in terms of productivity and ongoing optimization. So maybe that some of the industry 4.0, the predictions that are being said may seem to be unrealistic, whether it is possible, but it is happening. There are many solutions available today that pushes industry 4 into existing processes, and primarily you can say in industrial robots. Robots are perfectly positioned to capture the elusive production data because they work closer to the part than any other equipment on the factory floor. So industry 4 technology actually essentially allows for a communication network of connected devices. As you can see, the machines, the softwares, the people, all of them. And then it gives manufacturers the timely insights into critical processes that is going on. So in case there is a right person who can access this information, which is needed at just the right time, it will help them to avoid unnecessary downtime and will promote lower overall the cycle times for everything. Right? So when production problems can be proactively corrected, and all the relevant personnel has an insight into the production data, the ongoing optimization can be made to reduce cost while ramping up the throughput. Fine. So all quality issues can also be rectified, and you can say even energy savings can be addressed. And with a comprehensive view of what is holding operations back, overall competitiveness can be increased and productivity can continue to improve in this way. Now again, you can say that the robot was already there in the industry 3. So what is different here? So in industry 4, the concept is now shifting from robots to cobots. Now what are these cobots? Cobots are basically collaborative robots. So unlike their non-collaborative counterparts, that is robot, which rigidly followed the programming code, cobots have cognitive features built that helps prevent them the on-site accidents. So they have sensors and a built-in vision system that enhances their captured images. They recognizes objects and they can read barcodes. And also due to machine learning, cobots can be taught to perform very specific tasks while maintaining a good speed and precision. So cobots can also be easily operated by even a non-IT personnel. So that's very important because in case you are trying to perform something on robot, you need to configure it. You have to program it. While in the case of a cobot, simply by the voice recognition system, even a non-IT personnel can tell that cobot to what is to be done. So it has become so simple now, right? So let us move further now. You have seen that how smart automation is helping the factories, the new upcoming factories. Now let us see what are the design principles that are a part of the industry 4. As you can see here, the 4 design principles are followed and are integral part of industry 4. The first one is interconnection. So when we say interconnection, it is the ability of machines, devices, sensors, and human to connect with each other, communicate with each other, fine, and utilizing the internet and the concept of Internet of Things. Fine. So that is interconnection between everything. Then second design principle is that of information transparency. So when we talk of information transparency, it actually provides the operators with comprehensive information to make an informed decision. So interconnectivity basically allows the operators to collect immense amount of data and information from all points in the manufacturing process, and thereby identifying the key areas that can benefit from the improvement to increase the functionality. Right? Then the third design principle is that of technical assistance. So when we talk of technical assistance, it is basically the facility of the system to assist humans in decision making or problem solving, and to help humans in some kind of a difficult or unsafe task. So this is the kind of technical assistance that needs to be provided in Industry 4. Then the last design principle is that of decentralized decisions. So this is the ability of the cyber physical systems to make decisions on their own and to perform their tasks as autonomously as possible. Right? So only in the cases of certain exceptions or interference or some kind of an confliction, the tasks are delegated to a higher level. Right? So otherwise, it's a decentralized decision. Right? So now let us move further, as we have we know now the design principles which are part of Industry 4.0. So what is being said by prominent people around the world? So as you can see here, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, she said that the Industry 4 is the way that we deal quickly with the fusion of the online world and the world of industrial production. So in this sentence itself, the crux of Industry 4 is visible. It says the fusion of online world, the online world and the world of industrial production. Fine. So Industry 4 is basically meant for fusing this internet, that is online world, and the industrial production world. Right. So this he said in a World Economic Forum in 2015. So it's way back in 5 years back that she said this. So next is something that has been said by Paul Carrero. So he's executive VP of EMEA. There are three key parts that needs for digitization. The first thing is Internet of Things and cyber physical systems. Right. Second thing that he said was we need advancements in big data and powerful analytics. And the third important thing is the secured communications infrastructure to have a backup, good backup. Fine. So to achieve Industry 4.0, these three things are required. Fine. But there are other things also, but there prominent people are coming forward and they are saying these things. Fine. So let us move further. So we can now see that if we in totality see Industry 4.0 in a broader perspective, then these three things comes into picture now. The first is Internet of Things. Second is cyber physical systems, and then Internet of Services. Right? So when we talk of this Industry 4.0 as having these three as its constituents, then we need to understand what does they mean. What are these three things? Right? So let us try to understand these three things. What are they? So if you see this slide on Internet of Things, you can see it simply, you can see there are a lot of things. So it simply means to be connected to internet. Fine. Everything and anything is connected to internet. Fine. So for this interconnection, uh, three things that are very important with the perspective of IoT, that is Internet of Things. As you can see here, it is sensors, softwares, and electronics. Fine. So we have sensors here, we have electronics, and we have software. So sensors, but out of these three also, sensors are the most important component. Why this is very important? Because this sensor actually senses the data, may it be for finding out the pressure or the temperature or the humidity or the size or so on. There are a lot many sensors, you name it and you have a sensor for it to capture the data. Fine. So sensors, you can say, are the most important component of it. Fine. And besides that, the electronics is the hardware component which supports the sensor. And then we have the software part, which helps to extract that data from the sensors and sends it to a data management system, which further analyzes it, fine, and provides you an insight that what you have to do with the insight that has been provided, right? So once you have this in place, you simply provide this data to some kind of a cloud or a system, fine, a server, and then you can continuously go on exchanging these data, fine. The data goes on increasing with day to day basis, and then you have an improvement because of those data. You have an analysis, and you go on improving your system, right? So this is something on Internet of Things. And further, you can see here, you name it, and you can see that everything is here as an interconnected part of it. Even be it a food item or house or your products in your house or in your office or in your factory, or you name it, you have it here, right? So you can add upon this list a lot of things. Even person is a people or a man is also part of it. Human being is also part of it. So let us say how many of us are ready to go, say in a driverless car today? Are we ready to go in a driverless car? Obviously, in India, I think we are not still comfortable with that thought process. So we are not comfortable to sit in it just like a car, which is having a driver. But the things have already started, and Tesla, Google, and even other more companies are producing it. So that means we are now having a car which is driverless, and you simply sit on it and just give a voice command that this is the address where you have to reach, and the car takes you to the designated place. Fine. So slowly and slowly, see, it will become a norm and part of your life. So it is becoming a part of your life. You have to see around. That's it. So another example you can see is the Magenta line, the metro rail line of the Delhi Metro. That is the Metro Railway of Delhi, India, and it is the first driverless metro in India. Fine. So think of it. People are riding on it, and they don't know that it is a driverless. Many of the people don't know that there is no driver in it actually. Though you may see a driver, but he is simply a dummy, you can say. Fine. To make people comfortable that there is a driver here, but otherwise it is being controlled through a control room, right? This Magenta line, I sometimes drive, I sometimes go with this metro line also to my native place. So it consists of 25 metro stations from Janakpuri to Botanical Garden. So think of it, you are already a part of it. So let us take another example, say Amazon Alexa. Alexa, you must be seeing a lot of ads are coming nowadays. Fine. So Alexa is a virtual assistant of AI technology, which has been developed by Amazon. So it is capable of voice interaction, music playback, making to-do lists, even setting alarms, streaming the podcast, playing the audiobooks, providing you the weather, traffic, sports, and other real-time information, the news. Fine. So Alexa can also control several smart devices using itself as a home automation system. So think of it. Now Alexa, most of the people have started using it. Fine. So you are automating your home. Then let us come to the teaching faculty. So think of the online teaching scenario due to this pandemic situation in the country. So how much of the teaching community were connected through net and were familiar with this online teaching tools and techniques till March this year, before lockdown? I don't think that even 10% of people were going through online teaching scenario. But now see of it, almost all of us have learned it in a very short span of time, and we are trying to discover new ways of teaching online. The connectivity in this is an important aspect for this revolution. Fine. So we are already in this industrial revolution 4. Fine. So I think now you have understood in some way that you are a part of it. Fine. So let us see this terminology of cyber physical systems. So when you say this cyber physical system, a physical world wherein we are here in this physical world, the data is captured from this physical world through the sensor networks. Then this is sent to the data management platforms to analyze the data and process it further. Then the data analytics platform basically provides you the planning and decision making part, and then it is sent from data analytics platform to the physical world with a real-time feedback, so that accordingly the things can improve and optimize itself. So this complete system is a cyber physical system, right? So you can say a cyber physical system is an automated feedback system which improves itself through the analysis of data captured, hence providing a better and better services in future. So for example, you can think of Toyota. Toyota has developed a very flexible mass production system. So on a daily basis, a variety of automobile is produced on a single production line based on pull system. That means whatever demand comes, demand always comes in a variety. And each of those demands are made on a single production line. Fine. So that's a cyber physical system, which is improving. Now see this Internet of Services. So as you can see, these two rings, one is that of service providers and another is that of consumers, right? So we can see that the service providers and the consumers need to interact with each other in Internet of Services. So in this way, when they interact, they actually helps or enables the exchange of information and the knowledge between humans and machines over the internet. Right? So there are several layers between the service provider and the consumer. Fine. There are various layers in it. So as you can see here, so we connect various devices, giving them the nominal intelligence, right? So their real innovation is Internet of Services in this, right? So manufacturers need to think through their business model and ask, how can a product become a service with a long-term revenue stream, right? So many manufacturers, however, recognize this and are exploiting this opportunity to improve their operations. So if I take an example in this, So we have Tesla, which is delivering vehicles with hardware and software, which can be upgraded, and their cars are sensor ready, and software upgrades will provide extra intelligence delivered via the internet. Right? So the customer is ready to pay for the upgrades because it will give them a better service, a better product. And in this way, Tesla is also able to generate extra revenue by giving this extra service, right? Similarly, another example of this is how to become a important part of a value network is like Otis. Otis deals in lifts and elevators. So it supplies elevators and lifts with sensors which sends data into their cloud. So they analyze the data of the elevators, and then Otis sells a predictive maintenance service package, fine, to the people or the company where this lift is maintained. So in that way, it gives them a long-term revenue stream. They know where the fault lies and what parts needs to be changed, and accordingly, with the data analysis, they can simply serve a service notice to the concerned company, right, or an entity. Similarly, there are so many companies coming up with these kind of a concept. So there is a company in the Netherlands, a catering company, which is supplying custom meals to the hospitals. Now think of it that the patients, each patient has a different need. So each meal is prepared for the patient based upon the data that is received from the hospital about the patient's needs. And then this meal is prepared in an automated plant. So think the level at which automation is going. Then again, the individualization of mass production and the Internet of Services then add additional revenue in this model. So a smart manufacturing plant needs to be flexible and must deliver intelligent products. So there is a misunderstanding also. A major misunderstanding in this is that this is not a cost saving exercise. So people try to take it as a cost saving exercise, though a lot of cost is saved. But this is simply not a cost saving exercise. This is moving further by optimizing your resources, right? So it's a new business model to increase revenue and profitability, right? So now let us move further to what is needed in future to bring Industry 4.0. What should we do so that Industry 4.0, let us say in India, though in India also a lot of bigger companies are already there with this concept and have automated their factory, right, as per the requirement of Industry 4.0. So let us see how we can do this. So the first thing that is needed is network. So obviously this is the base for Industry 4, that you need a very strong and secured internet which will provide everything in the factory to remain connected with each other. So to remain connected with each other, to pass information from one to another, fine, you require a very high bandwidth and low latency. And all this information has to be captured and sent to a cloud where this information should be collected, analyzed, and accordingly some kind of insight needs to be provided by this data, which will be incorporated in the factory. So that's why networking is very important part when we talk of Industry 4.0, right? Now, the second part is digital to physical conversion through machines. So in this, we need fully automated machines which can be uh, provided with that kind of capability to convert the digital signals into a kind of physical manufacturing, right? So obviously in this part we do need AI, artificial intelligence, so that a machine by itself can see the data, decides by itself where it is going wrong in case it is, and then correct itself, right? We have another technology, that of 3D printing, that is of additive manufacturing part, and it is giving us the important consideration in terms of digital to physical conversion. So what do? We simply provide, you can say, uh, kind of an image or data, and that data, that CAD file, which is converted into an STL file in this 3D printing, and that STL file basically is run through the 3D printing, which gives the instruction to the machine to provide in real terms the physical thing that is needed. So that means the additive manufacturing technology can be used to produce new items, fine, which actually took a lot of time, now can be produced, fine, in a few hours only, fine. So this is the way we are trying to reduce the cycle times. Then we have this robotic machines which are connected to the internet, right? So why this robotic machine that is connected to internet? And as I told you, we are rather going for cobots, the robotic machine which are connected to internet, and which are having the visual capabilities and the analytic capabilities, fine. So we can say that these cobots, fine, are basically smart enough to analyze everything, decide everything, and do everything whatever it has been configured to do, right? It can produce everything, it can do everything. So that is what is going on as of now and will be done in future also. Then we have smart devices which are enabled with the next level of GUI, that is graphical user interface, with virtual and augmented reality. So what is this? VR and AR, virtual reality or augmented reality. So if you have seen, there are many devices that are coming with this concept of VR and AR. So a real-time analysis can be done of what machine is doing and the performance of it, right? So based on that, you can see whether there could be a problem in a near future with a given machine, fine. And everything is a graphical user interface. It means you have something which is very much user friendly. You need not need to do some kind of a coding, hard coding in it, fine. Everything is very much user friendly for you. Then these robotic machines carrying RFID sensors. What is the purpose of RFID sensors? Basically, these sensors collect real-time data and store it on the cloud. So how does it help? It actually helps in customizing the products. Basically, it helps in shortening the product life cycles, right? So by using this RFID, fine, by using these sensors, you can go for a zero downtime for maintenance, right? So that's why it is required. Then what you need is big data storage centers. Why? Because whatever you are doing is basically the purpose is to collect data and then analyze it. Now, so much of data is being collected on a daily basis. You need use, you can say, as I've written, in exabytes as a storage space. Fine. So whatever data we are collecting through sensors has to be placed in some kind of a database, and that database has to be used, and your storage space has to be used so that it can contain that huge amount of data. This is a big data analysis that we do with these kind of data. So as we can see, the big data analysis, fine. So when we do this big data analysis, fine. So the sensors, machines, operators, everything need to be there in between for collection of this data. Everybody is part of it, fine. So unless all data is collected, we will not be able to find out what kind of analysis needs to be done for predicting any kind of failure that may happen, fine. Because a lot of data, when connected, fine, it provides you with the useful insights, fine, to find out where something can fail, fine. So the 6 C's that I am referring to here actually refers to the connections, then the cloud computing, then the cyber models, then the content, then the community sharing, then collaboration and customization. Right. So for big data analytics, these 6 C's are referred to here. Right. Then again, even when your product is there in the market, fine. Whether there is a problem that is occurring in the product itself, what can you do? Because earlier, what happened that a customer, when he found that a kind of a product that he has purchased is malfunctioning or there is some problem within the given warranty period, so it gave a very bad name to the company. But now what companies are trying to do? They are installing RFID tags with the products, right? Which have its own memory. So that whenever there is a problem, that memory actually sends the data to the data center, and based on those data, the analysis part provides you an insight whether the given product is having some kind of a problem, and accordingly you can decide that okay, that machine is having some kind of problem which was purchased by that person, so you can send somebody before that product malfunctions and it gets corrected. Think of it, a kind of a delight for customer, that something was about to happen bad with the product and the company already knew about it and came to correct it. Fine. So that kind of things has started happening with RFID tags on products in the value chain. Right. So it helps in tracing the failed products in case something fails, or even before it fails, you can check whether the product has something which will make the product to fail in the future. Fine. So a lot of cost that is involved in such kind of a thing will reduce. Then next is ERP2 on cloud connecting everything. So this is the next level of ERP software, fine, which connects all the elements of value chain on the internet, fine. So Siemens has already ERP software based on this, which is digital enterprise software. So till now, the ERP software, let us say, for example, SAP, Oracle, BAN, PeopleSoft, and so on. So these were working as a separate units. So now we are trying to connect them in between also. Fine. Now ERP 2 is basically trying to connect dynamically with everything. Fine. So that is the next level that we are moving into. Then and this is the last thing that we need is the data and IT security, because a lot of data which is being generated and collected obviously is something wherein your competitor or opponent is also trying to increase its footfall in the market and will try to hamper your progress. So that means with so much of interconnectivity that is happening, the rate of cybercrime also is increasing with same speed. So that means the company specific data in the data centers and on the cloud needs a higher security. So cyber security comes into picture in this case, and nowadays is a much talked about topic, fine, and is very much required by all the companies to secure their data, fine, because if factory is running based on the data, then if something happens to data, your factory stops. Getting it? So basically data is running your factory now in Industry 4. So that's why the security of data is of utmost importance. So now in this slide, I have tried to provide you the components of Industry 4, and you are already aware of most of these things. The mobile devices, you are using these devices nowadays. Then IoT platforms, I think you are also having some lectures on IoT. Then we have location detection technologies, then advanced human machine interfaces, then the fraud detection thing, then additive manufacturing, then smart sensors, then big data analytics, multi-level customer interactions, then AR and VR, then cloud computing, data visualization. So all of these are components of Industry 4.0. And as a system, if we see, then somewhere or the other, we do need these components, right? So further, if we move, then if we talk of the smart factory, in reality, fine, the smart factory, the concept of smart factory, what we need is cyber physical systems, the Internet of Things, then we need cloud computing, and then cognitive computing, right? So when we talk of cognitive computing, it means that you know what is to be done smartly. You understand things fast. You are intelligent enough to understand the things, and this intelligence helps you to decide what is to be done, right? So this is cognitive computing. So now let us come to the benefits. What are the benefits of Industry 4? So in this case, I have broadly taken the benefits in the terms of the innovation that it provides, in terms of the sustainability it gives to us, in terms of the workforce vitality that it gives, right? So we will see these benefits further. So as you can see here in this slide, so many of things that benefit from this Industry 4.0 is written here. So let us take them one by one. We just try to understand what are the benefits that we derive from these different items. So if we say, see this big data, so we start with big data. So big data driven quality control It basically records the complete data, which is actually used in a structured and integrated manner for, so let us say, identification of quality issues, or for causes of any problem, or for the analysis of it, for pinpointing the solution that is needed, or even for the reduction of rejections and defects. Fine. So there are a lot of more things than in this big data. So let us move further to robot assisted protection, or autonomous robots that you are seeing. So robots that are similar to humans, so we generally now call them as humanoids, which are equipped with better safety sensors and cameras. So what does they do? They significantly reduce the amount of manual labor in production operations, such as assembly and packaging and many more things. So, but it doesn't mean that when you see this, something that comes into our mind is, well, it is trying to reduce the number of jobs. No, it is not so. Industry 4.0 is not reducing the job. It is simply transforming the type of job that will be available in the near future in the market. Fine. So when we talk of robot assisted production, then it is creating a new job, which is that of a robot coordinator. Somebody is needed who knows this robot and can coordinate the activity that is being performed by the robot or the cobot. Fine. So the way job will be available in the future is different from what is available as of now. So you need to transform yourself accordingly. Right? Then we have self-driven logistic vehicles. Right? So automated transportation systems that navigate intelligently and independently within the factory, you can say, or nearby also. So thereby reducing the need for logistics personnel. But then somebody is needed to handle this automated process. Fine. Then production line simulation. So innovative softwares are required to simulate production lines prior to installation. So the demand for industrial engineers and simulation experts will increase the job opportunities. So new jobs are being created, that of industrial engineers and simulation experts. And it helps in optimizing the line efficiency. Again, the smart supply networks, if you talk of it, the supply networks. So using technology, we can monitor the entire supply network, which will enable a better supply decisions and reducing the number of jobs in operations planning. But then it will also create demand for supply chain coordinators to handle the deliveries is in smaller lot sizes. So something that is being reduced as a job is also creating a new type of job in Industry 4.0. Fine. So similarly, if we see the predictive maintenance, the manufacturer can offer its customer the real-time remote monitoring of equipment and 24/7 access to a diagnostic center. It is possible. And there could be alarms that can automatically get buzzed or generated if sensors indicate any kind of abnormality, right? Then monitoring and sensor technologies will allow the manufacturers to repair the equipment before any kind of breakdown occurs. So again, what are the jobs that are being created with this? The new jobs are that of system design, that of IT and data science people, that of digitally assisted field service engineers. Fine. Similarly, if we see the self-organizing production, then we have the designing production lines to automatically coordinate and optimize the utilization of each asset. So obviously it will reduce the demand for workers in production planning. But then on the other side, it will increase the demand for specialists in data modeling and interpretation. So again, there is a new job being created. Fine. So let us see another part like this additive manufacturing of complex parts. So this eliminates the need for assembly and inventories of individual parts by using additive manufacturing or 3D printing, and it enables manufacturers to create complex parts in a single step. Fine, but then it is basically creating new jobs in 3D computer aided design, CAD, and 3D modeling. So basically, even in R&D and engineering, these CAD people are required. Without them, 3D printing cannot happen. So that means additive manufacturing is creating new set of jobs. Fine. So nothing to worry about that jobs are being slashed. No, only thing is that new type of jobs are being created with the Industry 4. So see some of the benefits, the impact of Industry 4.0. As Germany started this in 2011, the Industry 4.0 concept, and then a survey was conducted by TNS EMNET of 235 German industries. This data is from 2015. So in 2015, that means 5 years had passed, 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. So the data of 5 years of 235 German industries, which were using Industry 4.0 tools and techniques and the technology, what insight it gave, the survey, was that within these 5 years, they had 18% higher productivity and about 2 to 3% rise in the profit. And think of it, this data is an older one. At that time, this thing was something new, and it was being adapted to it. The people were being adapted to it. And think of it now that it is almost 10 years since 2011, and now we know a lot of things about it. So this productivity and profit will increase, right? So again, I wanted to show this chart wherein you can see that the graph, fine, which you can see we are actually somewhere here now, and these are the different domains, the technologies, fine. And if you see this graph now, this is increasing exponentially, and this will happen in reality. In next 2 to 3 years, you will see that the changes around you are happening at a much faster pace. And unless you are able to adjust yourself within these changes, fine. Obviously, I'm sorry to say, the obsolescence will be there for you people. You have to adapt to the newer things that is coming in the market. That's why I showed you this. So now, see one of the major benefit of implementation, some examples that I wanted to show you, that how different companies are going for it. A study that was done by the Germany, fine, that was related to predicting the benefits from Industry 4.0. So I will talk about this example also related to this. So it predicted that the companies who are benefiting from Industry 4.0 is in terms of four things. One is related to productivity. Second is related to revenue growth. Third is related to the employment, and fourth is investment. Fine. So this is helping you in everything. Factory is being helped by Industry 4.0 technology. So now let us see this zero downtime solution. What is this? So actually, General Motors, like most of the automotive industry, is obviously is considered to be the innovator in automatic production, right? So what it did was it along with Fanuc company and Cisco company, they developed this ZDT. Fine. This ZDT, what is this ZDT? That is zero downtime solution. It is basically a cloud-based software platform which actually analyzes the data collected from robots across all GM's factories. Fine. So this program, they actually launched it in 2014 and was initially built to eliminate the downtime. But as more and more data was collected, the system's capabilities grew. And now, as ZDTs come, the capabilities of ZDT has increased, the system is providing some remarkable returns. So you can see this. So the program, this ZDT program, has provided quick return on investment. So in fact, they are saying that they have avoided over 100 significant unscheduled downtimes since the program was launched. So think of the saving they had, because this company was having the cost of downtime of over $20,000 per minute. Fine. And if they are saying that it was say more than 100 downtime that has been avoided, now think of it, the amount that they had saved because of not going through this unscheduled downtimes. Fine. So part of this what has been yielded this great ROI is their the facilities ability to perform predictive maintenance. Actually, the data captured from this robots indicates that what is going to fail before it fails. So before it fails, when it tells you, because of the predictive analysis, that when it will fail, then downtime can be avoided easily, because then maintenance can be done or performed in time wherever required. Now think of it like Fanu currently, as on date, has more than 20,000 robots, or you can say cobots worldwide, which are connected to its ZDT system. And it claims that ZDT analytics have successfully identified potential equipment issues and notified customers to take corrective actions and avoid unexpected downtimes in more than 600 cases, and thereby saving those companies which was involved more than $75 million in amount. Again, another example we can take is that of KUKA Robotics. Even in our university, we have two robots from KUKA. So KUKA Robotics Industry 4 system is actually called KUKA Connect. So this cloud-based analytics and intelligence platform that allows engineers to access vast amount of data that is being turned into some kind of an analytical information, right? So basically, this KUKA Connect provides the opportunity to leverage this data analytics and cloud computing to predict, and sustainability can be increased for productivity, quality, and the manufacturing flexibility, right? So a lot of things has been happening. So even in India, if we take the case of India, fine, what is happening here? So our Indian companies, or let us say in India, the foreign companies also, which have their bases here, are they doing something? So we have certain examples for that also. Fine. If we see this, we have the company Siemens, we have the company Honda, we have the company Bosch, then we have the company this Cadbury's. Fine. So Cadbury Dairy Milk Fine. There are a lot of companies that are already there in India and have automated their factories and reached the industry 4 level. So if I just simply take a simple example, so the German automaker company, the Bosch, BOSCH, so it has a plant in Bidadi, which is nearby to Bangalore. And if you go to that factory, right, there are so many cobots that are working, fine, alongside humans nowadays. So the factory actually was started in 2015, which actually makes the fuel injection pumps and many other products also. But slowly and slowly, they have actually changed everything. And by 2018, right? By 2018, you can say this plant is considered to be one of the best when it comes to Industry 4. Fine. So they are having more than 300 projects. Fine. So similarly, we have Siemens. So Siemens has also digitized their factory as per Industry 4.0, and they have invested approximately €1 billion. Fine. So what has been helped in this? They actually were making around 40 products in their manufacturing line previous to this I4 happened, and now they say that we are actually making 180 customized product variants in just one line. Think of it. So when previously they were having 40 product variation in 3 lines, now they are having almost uh, 180 you can say lines, right? So it also means that the time of production is reducing for producing those products, right? So there are many other companies, even Cadbury's has now gone for Industry 4, and everything is being manufactured as per the new guidelines, right? So the last thing that I would like to tell you something about is related to this Sophia. I think most of you must have heard about Sophia. Fine. So what does this uh, Sophia comes in between? How? So obviously, when we talk of Sophia, Sophia is a social humanoid robot which was developed by the Hong Kong-based company, the Hanson Robotics, in 2016. And the Sophia has been covered by media around the globe, and she has participated in many high-profile interviews also. And even in October 2017, the country Saudi Arabia actually made Sophia their citizen, the first robot who has received citizenship of any country. Right? So, so in November 2017, Sophia was named the United Nations Development Programme's first ever innovation champion, and is the first non-human to be given any United Nations title. So you can see that there are so many uh, things within Industry 4, but yet it is within your reach. It is with your presence and you as a part of this, that Industry 4 revolution is happening. Right. So with this, I thank you, the organizers, for giving me this chance to give a talk on Industry 4.0. And now the questions, if any, may be asked, please. So if there is any question related to this, I can take them if required.
Dear participant, as per the our speaker, if you have any questions, now you have the access to unmute yourself and you can put your questions. You can put your question in the chat box also. We will see that. Anyone have any questions, please?
So any question? Okay, somebody has written here, Maneet Kumar. Sir, please elaborate on neurotech in short after the session. Okay, okay, okay. So, okay, the neurotech, when we talk of it, it is basically related to how people are able to understand the brain part, the consciousness part, the thought process that is there, and how it helps in industry 4, let us say. So let me tell you one of the short experience of mine. So one of the professor that has taken your lecture also, Professor Samantha from IIT Guwahati. So I had visited IIT Guwahati. So there he showed me one of his projects wherein the artificial hand that was made with all fingers in place, and somebody who was not who was handicapped basically from hand, and that artificial hand was being put in place of his hand, and that person simply by his thought process can move his hand, can move his fingers, fine. So those kind of things is actually happening. That is a reality. I've seen that, fine. So when we talk of neurotechnology, this is neurotech. You can provide a software which actually reads your mind and then accordingly tries to move something, fine, try to do something that is actually happening. So I think I've tried to give you something about neurotech in short, because if you want to go into depth, so you need to go into depth about how brain functions, fine, the neuroscience, and then you can connect with the physical world of that brain, how brain can do something with a physical thing, fine, just by going through a thought process. So this is possible.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anybody else? Any question, please? So I think this was some kind of an informative session about Industry 4. And
Thank you very much, sir. This session was very informative, and your expert talk on this Industry 4.0 will surely benefit us to explore this field in more aspects. Thank you for joining the session, sir. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you everybody for listening so patiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So, may I conclude this session, sir?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.